Hi, everyone. Diana Rankin here. So good to see you. It's always nice to see those of you who are able to make it live, but for those of you who are unable to make it live, we're always glad to see you in the energy, so to speak, or on the video. So I thank you so much for supporting this channel. That means a lot. I also thank you for your questions. I just ask that you keep them of a general nature. If you have private questions, just give me a call and we'll get you set for a session. If you're international, please email rather than call. Um, that's the easiest way we can set up a time, and let me know what your time zone is, because I'm on Eastern time, and it can get really tricky sometimes when we're talking about different time zones, especially when we're talking international time zones. Anyway, our question today is really interesting, and I find that the questions often are come up around things that are happening in my life or with my clients or friends, and this one is no exception. The question today is what makes a good parent, and also what makes a good child. So we're going to look at that. The answers always surprise me. I always learn something, so I hope you do too. We will also get a soul message from Philip, a psychic message from Philip from one of my books. It's called The Master's Book of Answers by Phillip. And we just kind of flip through and we find any page, and there's a wisdom on that page. And that's our message for the week as well. I always like to just kind of chit chat for a few minutes to give those who are joining us live a chance to come on. I know this is not the easiest time for some people, but those who are able to come live, I'm always grateful to see you. I've told you before, and I'll tell you again, it is easier for me to stand in front of a crowd of hundreds, or a crowd of a few hundred, or a crowd of a dozen, than it is to look at myself in the camera and speak back to myself. So those of you who support me, I am so grateful. It's really helpful. But we are going to go on and get started here. Excuse me. So our questions this week: what makes a good parent, and what makes a good child? Here's what Philip has to say about that. These first three words, let us begin, when he says that, I know that this is going to take us really in a direction that I didn't expect, and in a deeper direction. So here we go. Let us begin by saying the answer to these questions will depend in part on the culture and also on the individual household. This explained, we will speak in universal terms. That said, let us proceed. It must first be understood that 1, everyone chooses their parents, and the parents choose their children. These are soul contracts made before human life existence. Philip has said and talked about that more in depth, about our soul contracts, and we'll probably one of these days do a video on that. So here we go on. 2, wounded people wound others. Except for the oldest and most highly developed souls, all humans have a wound they are to heal as part of the human life experience. So we all have a wound that we have to experience. That's part of our human life experience. We must also say that most, not all, but most humans do their best. The life conflicts arise because of unawareness. By this, we mean that most people are unaware of their purpose of life and their specific purpose in life. So we're unaware of the purpose of life and unaware of our specific purpose in our lives. Excuse me. Once a person lives in awareness, they understand all took place for the reason of guiding all to love. Love for self, love for one another, and love for life. I'm going to repeat that because I think that's an important paragraph to hear. Once a person lives in awareness, they understand all took place for the reason of guiding all to love, love for self, love for one another, and love for life. This awareness comes after one is able to forgive one's self and all others. In this awareness, one comes to understand there is nothing to forgive. All is as it is, and all is the choice between blaming the other or understanding all unfolded for the higher good of all involved. Wow. Let me repeat that because I think that's really important. Once a person lives in awareness, they understand all took place for the reason of guiding all to love, love for self, love for one another, and love for life. This awareness comes after one is able to forgive oneself and all others. In this awareness, one comes to understand there is nothing to forgive. All is as it is, and all is the choice between blaming the other or understanding all unfolded for the highest good of all involved. This is quite a difficult concept to understand if looked at through the human mind. The only way to grasp the concept and step into awareness is to look through the lens of the higher spirit self. If we think of good parenting skills, then we must also think of bad parenting skills, for this is the human world, a world of opposites. Yeah, we do live in a world of opposites in the human world, don't we? In human terms, the worst of the worst parent is one who abuses a child physically, emotionally, sexually, or is absent emotionally or physically. The opposite of this parent is the one who is available for the child emotionally and physically, a parent who loves, protects, and teaches the child the ways of life and the ways of their culture and the world. Parents will be on the spectrum somewhere between these two, the worst and the best. And I think that's true. I don't think that most people are here or here. We're all somewhere on that spectrum, aren't we? The old saying, no one is perfect, is correct only in the human world. In spirit language, all is perfect. This said, we ask you to keep in mind that except for old souls of the highest order, all humans come into this life with a wound they have agreed to experience and work toward healing. How can this be true of a new young soul who has not yet experienced human life? They too will take on a wounding, but it will usually be one of less anguish than a soul with more experience. Children and parents choose complementary wounds. For example, the parent may agree to abandon the child so the child has the abandonment issue. Or the child who was raised in a royal family may choose a family where rigid protocol is not called for. The examples are endless. So we shall move on and say, the purpose of life, whether the parent or the child, is to come to the awareness of the higher purpose of being together. You have chosen one another to wound one another to heal the wound and live in love. The healing of the wound begins with recognition of that wound and then taking measures to heal it. Without the healing, you pass it on. With the healing, you change the energy for all time. So what makes a good parent? One who recognizes their wound and their part in the wound and their part in wounding their child, and through love heals their wound and loves their child through their healing. What makes a good child? One who recognizes their wound and heals their wound through love, not blame. In doing so, they forgive themselves and all beings, and the world grows. I love that. So I'm going to read those last two paragraphs over again. So what makes a good parent? One who recognizes their wound and their part in wounding their child, and through love heals their wound and loves their child through their healing. What makes a good child? One who recognizes their wound and heals their wound through love, not blame. In doing so, they forgive themselves and all beings, and the world grows. I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, Lexi Luna. She says, hi, Diana and Philip. I look forward to seeing you and hearing the message each week. Oh, thank you. Sending lots of love and positive vibes to you and all watching. Thank you so much, Lexi Luna. So good to see you every week as well. Well, that's what makes a good parent, and that's what makes a good child. Interesting, I find. I hope you find it as helpful and as interesting as I do. And again, I thank you for the questions. Let's get our weekly message, shall we? We just kind of flip through, and there's where my finger wants to stop. You notice the hesitation there, and sometimes that will happen, and you think, it's not quite right. And one more page flips out of your finger, and you say, that is right. If you heard right, you and I are in sync, and that's the message for the week. If you heard left, that's a message you need to pay special attention to. So on the right, that which you want to hear may not be that which you need to hear. That which you want to hear may not be that which you need to hear. And on the left, it says, is it not that war is a substitute for peace, fear a substitute for love, darkness a substitute for light? Is it not that war is a substitute for peace, fear a substitute for love, darkness a substitute for light? But for all of us, the message is that which you want to hear may not be that which you need to hear. And before I forget, I did get the September predictions out, so be sure and go check those out and see what you think there. Couple of bombshells on that one. And so I thank you for being with me today, Lexi Luna. I thank all of you for the love you send to us. And hello, my friend from down under, and thank you for the love you're sending to us. Thank you for the love that you receive for us. And thank you for the love you add to our world, because we really need love in our world right now. We are creating a new world. We're in that transition. We've made the tip over. We've made the transition, but it still is going to take quite a while for us to really feel the love that we need to keep spreading. The world is still pretty split. But I remind you, we heal like this. And so often we have to let the wound open, whether it's a nation, a country, the world, our own private wounds. So let the pus come out so we can heal like this. This is when we truly reach the mountaintop, my friends. I love you. Thank you for being with me today. Thank you for adding so much love to our world. Until we meet again. Bye for now.